Hi everyone, I've been on a road trip to the southwestern part of the United States. It's been over 2,000 miles and I'm finally here at Joshua Tree National Park. I wanted to take some time to talk about the different gears that I brought on this trip and also route planning and what actually the reality is on this trip of mine. Will I make it in the Southwest desert? Stay tuned and you'll find out. Before I start, this video is divided into 3 parts, so if you want to skip ahead, go ahead and look down in the description and click on the link so that way you can get to the part that you want to see the most. If you've been following my channel, you know that I like to bring a lot of camping gear with me to make my outdoor space comfortable and aesthetically pleasing. You also know that I'm from the Pacific Northwest, in which the weather is pretty fair. However, all of that's going to change because I'm going to be in a new environment and I have to select certain camping gears for this long road trip of mine. When I started packing for this road trip, I wanted to take a minimalistic approach to all of my snow peak gear. So I decided to bring the 2-unit IGT paired with the short extension. I brought a flat burner along with 2 half-unit boxes. The steel box is great for storing small items like lighters, TTA clamps, and mini Huzuki lanterns. All of this fits into the Rux 70L box along with some other camping accessories. You know how much I love the Takibi Fire and Grill, but I have to leave it home because it was too big and heavy. I also wasn't sure if campfires are allowed due to fire bans, so I didn't want to risk bringing something that wasn't going to be used. So I brought the Takibi Solo instead. The Takibi Solo is 9.5 pounds comparing to 23 pounds of the Takibi Fire and Grill. It also has a smaller footprint for you to store in the car. It's easy to set up as you can just unfold it and attach it to the 2-leg frame. It's great at burning twigs that you can gather from the ground. If I ended up not using it because of a burn ban, it won't be a burden to carry around. Next up, I had to leave the Snow Peak beach chair at home. Unfortunately, it's too heavy and not as compact to carry around on this long road trip. I brought the Helinox Savannah chair instead. It's almost half the weight at 4 pounds each. It's more compact than the Snow Peak beach chair, so there's more room in the base camp for me to store other stuff. The difference between the 2 chairs in terms of comfort is the Helinox chair feels like you're being hugged while sitting, while the Snow Peak chair feels wider and more stable when sitting. Due to its light weight, the Helinox chair often gets blown over by the desert wind. Other than this, the Helinox Savannah chair is really convenient to set up, take down, and pack away. It's definitely a better choice than the Snow Peak chair in this situation. Last but not least, I also brought the Snow Peak My Table to quickly set up at a spot when we don't want too much setup at all. It's perfect for coffee drinking or having a quick meal outdoor. I can cook inside the base camp and enjoy eating outside with the Snow Peak My Table. It's just big enough to fit a couple of cups and a couple of small plates. I'm definitely glad that I brought the Snow Peak My Table along with me on this trip. That's pretty much all the Snow Peak gear that I brought with me on this trip, but the question is, what really took up all of that space in my car? Let's go to my truck to find out. Well, the Ecoflow Glacier and the generator takes up the most space. And as you can see right here, this is where I put my Glacier in the car, and this spot right here would be where I would put the generator in front of the Glacier. Now, let's talk about why I brought along these 2 very important items. Let's start out with the Ecoflow Glacier. I took up the wheels of the Glacier so that it could fit into the trunk of the car, occupying less space. The reason why we did this is because we decided that it's going to be permanently stored in the trunk for the rest of the trip. The refrigerator in our base camp is the main refrigerator for food and drink. The Ecoflow Glacier is set in single zone mode at 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Our strategy is to keep frozen food storage that will last us for 3 weeks on this road trip. So far, it's been working out really well. We haven't had to stop by a grocery store to buy any food for this trip. I did a review on the Ecoflow Glacier during the springtime when I took it on a 10 days camping trip. It performed pretty well with the integrated battery pack. It can last a day on dual zone mode when the temperature was around 40 degrees Fahrenheit. However, this trip had much more extreme conditions in terms of the temperature. It was really hot because we're in the southwest desert. Temperature hover in the 90 degrees Fahrenheit. It's even hotter in the car because of the lack of ventilation. Therefore, the integrated battery with the Glacier will keep it at 10 degrees Fahrenheit for about 4 hours during the hottest time of the day. Now, I know that's a very disappointing number, but I've been able to keep the Glacier running with the help of the Ecoflow River 2 Pro. When I'm driving, I would plug the Glacier into the car's 12-volt battery to let it charge. This is perfect because I would often drive 6 hours a day between destinations. With the combination of solar charging and 12-volt DC charging, the Glacier will never run out of power even on the hottest time of the day. Alright, let's talk about the generator. Learning from my road trip experience from last year where I had dual solar panel setup and using my 2000 watt Bluetti battery pack to run the AC, that didn't work so well. I was only able to run the AC for about 45 minutes on a hot day in the 90s to lower 100 degrees Fahrenheit. My dogs were suffering the heat, so I had to move to a different camping spot. And even if I had enough solar panels to produce enough input to run the AC, it'd be probably too heavy for me to carry around. So a generator is the best solution if you want to run the AC in a hot climate area. I got a iPower generator that has 2000 watt AC output. Keep in mind that my AC does not have a soft start, so what that means is that I have to be gentle when starting my AC. The way to make sure that it doesn't trip any circuit is to turn the AC on high fan mode and let it run for about 30 seconds before turning on low AC mode. In cooler temperatures of about 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, I can run the AC for about 4 hours before I need to refill my generator with gas. On hotter temperatures of 90 to low 100 degrees Fahrenheit, I can run it on low AC for about 3 hours before needing a refill. This is definitely a game changer to make my family feel more comfortable while camping. I can boondock in the desert in the 90s to low 100 degrees Fahrenheit with the AC running in the base camp to make my family feel more comfortable. In addition to the Ecoflow Glacier and the generator, there's something that's very important that's often overlooked. Yes, I am talking about water and gas. Last year when I went on a road trip in the summer, I didn't carry enough water with me. The 21 gallons of water in the base camp is not meant for drinking. I always carry a 6 gallons water tank with me to filter with the travel Berkey for drinking. However, the 6 gallons water jug is not enough and it's pretty heavy to lift over my shoulders. So I brought 3 Dometic water jugs. It's almost 3 gallons per jug and I have a total of almost 9 gallons of extra water. I feel really reassured that we won't run out of water to drink while we're in the desert. The best part is that I can fit all 3 of the water jug underneath the passenger seat. I don't have to take space up in the trunk, and I couldn't do this when I had the bigger 6 gallons water jug. I also brought 2 gas cans. The larger 5-gallon gas can is used to store gas for my generator, and the smaller 2-gallon gas can is used to store backup premium gas for my car. Again, these items are often forgotten about, but it's better to have more than what you need for water and gas. I'm just more mentally at peace because I know that I'll always have water and backup emergency gas in case if I ever need it on this long road trip of mine. Well, that's it for this part of the video about gear selection. Let's move on to the next part of the video in which I talk about route planning and tips for boondocking and national parks visits. Now let's talk about route planning and how I plan for this road trip. I live in Western Washington, so I just did a really quick Google Map route to get to Zion. I really didn't want to drive 8 hours a day because in the past I've done that and it wasn't a great feeling because it made me so tired. So the plan was to stop in Pendleton, Oregon on the first day and then move on to Twin Falls, Idaho on the second day, and then on the third day we'll go down to Utah to Zion National Park. All of that should take 3 days, and to be honest with you, I was pretty spontaneous for this road trip. It was somewhat of a last-minute decision. We didn't plan this road trip months ahead of time, so we really didn't have any reservations at all. I really wanted to go boondocking and find a dispersed camping site on this trip as much as possible. This was definitely not usual behavior for us because we like to plan ahead. But you know what? There's a first time for everything, and we're just gonna wing it this time. As for boondocking, I like to use Didnt to find a boondocking spot, but that is not the only solution to find a boondocking spot. There are many other apps and websites such as Boondockers Welcome, iOverlander, and The Dirt. The reason why I like Didnt the most is because it's free and is frequently used by RVers to provide consistent feedback. And I'll get more into that later in terms of what kind of feedback they provide on Didnt. First off, I want to be real with you guys about the Basecamp off-roading abilities. Sure, it can go off-roading on bumpy gravel road that is uneven and perhaps some washboarding, but it definitely cannot climb over big rocks. So I would be really careful in choosing a boondocking spot and really do my research before I attempt to go in a spot to make sure that I don't get stuck or damage my rig. The last thing that I want to happen to me is to be thousands of miles away from home and have a bad time. So I'm really careful about picking a boondocking spot to make sure that I can get in without any issues and also be able to turn around in case if I can't find a campsite. So my process is start out looking at the map on Didnt and set my filter to free camping. It shows all the available spots, and then I read the review and look at some pictures. People will warn you about the road conditions getting into the boondocking spot. Then I look at the GPS coordinate on Google Maps and use satellite view to see the area. What I look for on satellite view is possible turnaround spot in case if I get stuck. I also look for the amount of available campsite at the spot. You can never know if all the campsites are taken until you get there. That's the beauty of boondocking. If everything checks out, then I save it as a go-to location. Then I do the same thing again to find 2 more spots in the region in case if it doesn't work out. This process is repeated every time I make a stop. With 3 boondocking spots bookmarked, there's a pretty good chance that I'm gonna be able to find somewhere to stay for the night. It's worked out well for us as I dispersed camp for free on a forest road in Oregon in which nobody was around, and then a peaceful water reservoir in Idaho, and plan to boondock in the famous Hurricane Cliff on Sheep Bridge Road near Zion. However, all of that changed because when we entered North Utah, we decided to change our route and go to Bryce Canyon instead. Our goal was to stay at Sunset Campground, but that's first come, first serve, so we have to depend on our luck. We arrived at Sunset Campground in Bryce Canyon at about 6 p.m. on a Saturday evening. I kind of assumed that they won't have a spot for us, and I was pretty prepared to boondock, but when I saw the camp host, he said, "I'm gonna make your day because there's 1 spot left that's gonna fit perfectly for you guys." I was overjoyed because I didn't expect us to find a spot on the weekend, and especially this late. Sure enough, Sunset Campground is a very popular campground due to its convenience. It's only a 5-minute drive to all the popular hotspots around the amphitheater section of Bryce Canyon. Best of all, it's a 5 minutes walk to Sunset Point from the campground. By late Sunday morning, most people had already left the campground and there were plenty of spots available. So if you plan on staying at Sunset Campground, make sure to arrive early, and it's best if you arrive on a weekday instead of a weekend like I did. After Bryce Canyon, we went to Zion. As I drove to Zion, the temperature started getting hotter because we were getting lower in altitude. We were going to boondock at Hurricane Cliff, which is a pretty famous boondocking spot near Zion, but we changed our mind because we couldn't leave our doggies in the base camp while we're away because the temperature was too hot. So I wanted to see if I can find a spot in South Campground as we drove through Zion on Highway 9. Everywhere I looked online, it says that South Campground is first come, first serve, but I'm gonna tell you guys this, it is not first come, first serve. You have to have a reservation. The only other campground that's available besides South Campground is Watchman Campground, and that's already fully booked. It was a really stressful situation because as we're driving on Highway 9 through Zion, everything is fully booked. Zion is overly crowded. There's a lot of people. So my wife started looking on her phone on Google Maps, and she found an RV park in Apple Valley called Range RV. The only downside to staying in Apple Valley is it's about 40 minutes away from the south entrance of Zion. But when looking at the price, it's a really reasonable rate per night comparing to some of the closer RV parks to Zion that's only 20 minutes away. Any camping spot within 40 minutes to an hour drive within Zion is a pretty reasonable distance. I know that sounds pretty far, but that's what happens when you don't have a reservation for a campground within Zion. So don't be like me and plan ahead if you want to stay within Zion to have that convenience experience. In retrospect, it was a really good decision to stay at this RV park because the temperature was so hot that we needed to constantly run the AC. Also, it's pretty typical for us to bring our dogs everywhere while camping, but that's not the case this time. We wanted to tour Zion and go on some trails, but a lot of these trails don't allow dogs, or even if they do, it's pretty dangerous to bring your dogs because these trails are on cliffs. I have a lot of things to say about Zion, but I'm gonna keep it short and simple and give you this one tip. There's always people at Zion, no matter what time you go. But it seems like a lot of people like to do activities in the morning to early afternoon. If you want to avoid the crowd, go after 3 p.m. There's still a lot of people, but it's way less than compared to when it's morning time. If you go after 3 p.m., there's pretty much not any people in line for the shuttle. And trust me, you're gonna want to ride a shuttle because there are a lot of places that the shuttle can go to, but you can't drive to. After Zion, I started driving down to the Grand Canyon in Arizona. Now, I was lucky enough to find an RV spot at the RV trailer park in the south rim of the Grand Canyon only 2 days before I arrived. It's a really popular campground because you can get to all the hot spots within the south rim in less than 7 minutes of driving. Keep in mind that they only have 50 amps connection at this RV park. So make sure that you bring an adapter to change from 50 amps to 30 amps for the Basecamp. And the one thing that I gotta say about the Grand Canyon is that there's no such thing as a bad view. You don't have to hike far and you can go to any viewpoint to enjoy a really beautiful view of the Grand Canyon. The reality is that I tried my best to prepare for this trip, but there were a lot of things that didn't go as planned. We really like to hang outside when we're camping, but we didn't do that a lot in this trip because of the weather. Bryce Canyon was the only place that was hot, but it wasn't too bad, so we're able to sit outside in the shade. Everywhere else, the weather was really hot. So why suffer the heat when I can just enjoy the AC inside my base camp while still getting the same views? And speaking of which, I didn't expect it to be too hot for my dogs. Both of my dogs are really fluffy Aussies that has double coat, and whenever they're outside in the desert, they're panting like so much. So I had to stay at a campground that has full hookup so I can run the AC all the time just for them. I was planning to bring my dogs everywhere with me like I usually do, but a lot of these national parks don't allow dogs. And even if they do allow dogs, it's quite dangerous because some of these trails are on cliff edges. So the best option for me was to leave my dogs in the base camp with the AC for a few hours while I hike the trails or tour different national parks. Even though I found a lot of good boondocking spots, I'm not 100% set on leaving the base camp at the boondocking spot to go for hours after hours and come back to the base camp. What do you think about leaving your rig at a boondocking site and going for hours and hours? Do you feel comfortable with that? Let me know what you think in the comment because people are pretty divided on this topic. But more importantly, it isn't just about leaving my rig at the boondocking spot unsupervised, it's leaving my pets unsupervised at the boondocking spots. I can't guarantee that the generator is gonna run the AC constantly while I'm away. Now, there are pet monitors that you can place inside the base camp, but I didn't think about that before going on this trip, so I wasn't prepared for that. So in conclusion, if you have pets traveling with you in the desert, it's better to go to a campground that has full hookups for your pet's safety. That way you can have a peace of mind that the AC is going to be running while you go and do your activities for the day and come back with your pets really excited to see you. I kept my outdoor setup pretty simple this time, so if you like to enjoy the outdoor nature and can stand the desert heat, you can sit out there, or you can be like me and just sit inside a base camp with the AC on and get the same view because the base camp's view is panoramic. There isn't a wrong way to camp, and for my family, comfort is one of the top priorities, so the base camp and our snow peak gear really makes that happen. I hope you enjoyed this video. It would mean a lot to me if you hit the like button and click subscribe to show this channel some support. Leave a comment below to chime in and let me know what you think about this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.